Now that the dust has settled on that Tennessee-Georgia game, it was an overtime thriller. Obviously, the Dogs come out on top late in that one. But what do you think the game, maybe the atmosphere, did for Tennessee recruiting overall?
It only helped, Josh. Obviously they do a great job, building relationships and getting connected with the recruits and the people in their circle and kind of building that trust early when they were a target. And look, wins and losses, we always say they don't make a huge impact on that decision, especially now with NIL involved and so many other factors. But the atmosphere, the environment, the fight in the team, how the team played, how the coaches coach, yes, they fell at the end in overtime. They would get up. Georgia would battle back. I mean, it was a great SEC football game against two SEC powers. So in the end, yes, the game didn't go Tennessee's way. But after everything, like you said, the dust settled, there's a lot more positive than negative coming out of the recruits about this atmosphere, the program, and the future there at Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee fans are starting to realize that. I mean, I know it was a heartbreaker, and that 48 hours after that game, it's hard to see any positives. But when you look back at it, and Joey Aguilar, that offense clicking, the pregame, especially from a recruiting perspective, the pregame festivities, heck, the action in the game, I mean, back and forth. I think there was 5 lead changes in the second half. It was absolutely nuts. So recruits had to be loving that one. And there's a couple storylines I want to hit when we talk about Tennessee's recruiting weekend. And one of them was the 3 defensive line flip targets on campus. USF defensive line commit Iverson Garcia, now decommitted from Virginia Tech, defensive lineman Andrew Rogers, and then Clemson defensive line commit Dre Quinn. Let's start with Rogers, since he is now decommitted after that Virginia Tech coaching change. It seems like he's trending to Tennessee, but do the Vols have some competition with Rogers?
Yeah, I think, Tennessee was trending even before the whole Brent Pry thing went down in the firing at Virginia Tech, over the weekend. And even when he committed, look, this one goes back into the summer. He reclassified, first of all, from 27 to 26. He committed to Virginia Tech in August. And even at that time, he already had an OV set to Tennessee for November. He was still planning to take visits to, Tennessee, South Carolina, some other schools. And now he's back on the market. Tennessee is the team to beat. They are the number 1 school on his list coming off this decommitment. He was back at Tennessee for the game. Obviously, he's teammates with Faison Brandon at Grimsley High School in North Carolina. So he knows a lot about the staff. He'll be back for an OV in November. And there's some competition. I mean, he's mentioned schools like North Carolina, Florida State, South Carolina, Georgia, to name a few. We think he'll take a few trips, in the coming weeks. But right now, Tennessee's in a good spot.
All right. Now, defensive line commit Iverson Garcia committed to USF. What's the buzz there? Are they just kicking the tires? I mean, obviously, with 3 flip targets on campus, Tennessee's looking for defensive linemen to add to this class. How much of a priority do you see Garcia?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a priority, maybe not as high as maybe an edge rush guy like a Rogers or a Dre Quinn that you mentioned before. But look, he's a local kid in Knoxville at Powell High School. He knows all about the program. He has a connection with Rodney Garner. He committed to USF. Tennessee has kept that seat warm, kept the communication, got him back on campus. I think they're still kind of filling each other out to kind of see, how bad does one want the other, and can they meet in the middle? And if they can meet in the middle and they both feel good about the situation, I think then a flip could happen. He is a take at Tennessee. Okay. I can say that with confidence as far as an interior defensive lineman, but how hard will Tennessee push? I think Garcia is waiting to see that. And then Tennessee waiting to see as kind of, how far will Garcia meet them in the middle per se to make this commitment happen or make this flip happen. So I think there's some interest there. Still trying to wait to see how serious things are between those two.
All right. What did you make of Clemson defensive lineman Dre Quinn showing up at Tennessee? Because we all know Clemson's rule with visits. If you're committed, you don't take visits. But when you're not winning as many games as the Tigers have been winning on the trail, guys start taking some visits, and I think that's what we saw with Dre Quinn. So where do you think his recruitment stands right now?
Yeah, I just think it shows he's not 100% locked in with Clemson. I think it's that simple. If there was some
But
buzz,
can you do that now? I mean, before you couldn't do
Well,
that at
I can
Clemson.
say this, talking to people, we're shooting this on Tuesday since Saturday when all this kind of broke, and Austin Price had it, Steve Wiltfong followed with that, and
Yeah.
then I followed up with Drake Quinn. So we had a kind of a three-headed monster tracking what was going on. And I can say from Dre's side that he's still listening, he's still looking, still yet committed to Clemson, and Clemson is not dropping him as of right now for taking this visit. Yes, there is, a policy there under Dabo Sweeney about like, look, if you're committed to Clemson, Clemson's committed to you. We don't bring in other guys behind your back. You don't take visits to other schools. Now, look, that line has been crossed, and there was
Right.
some buzz, no pun intended, about Dre Quinn going to Georgia Tech this past weekend as a Georgia Tech recruit to watch Tech and Clemson play, in Atlanta, the local school, but instead he pops up at Tennessee. Look, I can say this: Tennessee is pushing hard to flip Dre Quinn. How hard is Dre Quinn looking at Tennessee? We're still trying to put those pieces together. Right now, as we shoot this, he remains committed to Clemson. Clemson's okay with him. There was some communication before this trip. Clemson was aware he was going to visit somewhere this past weekend, so that was open on their side as well. But look, he's a target for Tennessee, maybe their top target now in these next few months, and see if they can flip him from Clemson. But right now, he's committed to Clemson, but definitely one to watch now moving forward.
Yeah, that's a really interesting storyline coming out of this one. One more thing we got to tackle when it comes to Tennessee recruiting, and that is the impressions that were made on 27 and 28 recruiting cycle prospects. We saw the number one overall player in the 2027 class, Kennedy Brown, number one linebacker and legacy recruit at Tennessee, Cooper Witten. We saw Josh Heupel giving plenty of attention to these guys. Even Peyton Manning was brought out to kind of rub shoulders with some of these top recruits. What is the latest buzz coming from some of these underclassmen when it comes to Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, as big as Peyton Manning was, I mean, Candace Parker, man, I got
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of guys were texting me pictures with Candace Parker, the female legend basketball player in the Pat Summit back in the day.
Yeah,
And
they brought out
WNBA
all the
star.
stars.
He was the guest speaker and all that on game day. So those guys were loving Candace Parker too. But look, like I said before, everything is there's no negatives. Like everything, I mean, I've probably talked to at least 30 kids, top guys that were there in that 27 and 28 class. And it's positive, positive, positive. They all say tough loss, but yet great game, great performance. I saw the team battle, loved the crowd, loved the environment. All that was positive. With a guy like Kennedy Brown, you can never start too early, an elite player in Texas. And, he's been on the road with Clemson, going to Nebraska this weekend. You start, I think, with Texas and Texas A&M as the teams to beat early at Cooper Witten. Different story, also in Texas, but a Tennessee legacy. He was hanging out with Tennessee commits. He's close with that staff.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships are real. They're viewed probably as the team to beat for Cooper Witten. But I've talked to guys like in-state kids, Lawrence Brent, an elite player out of Memphis area, Keyshawn Bowman, another flip target, 2027 from Brentwood Academy, committed to Oregon, has been visited Tennessee over 10 times now. An elite receiver in Virginia, Iverson Lewis, a major target for UT in 2027. The list goes on, and it just stays positive, positive, positive. You can never start recruiting these guys too early. Get them on campus as much as possible. Show them your culture, what you have to offer. And Tennessee checked a lot of boxes for a lot of top targets this past weekend.
Yeah, I think Tennessee fans are starting to come around, starting to see the silver lining. The season is far from over. This team could absolutely still see the playoffs. So Tennessee fans, talk to us. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about recruiting? How are you feeling about the team moving forward? Let us know in the comment section below.